Thank you. Hello. Thank you for joining me today for this quick presentation. I decided to do a presentation on C++ on Flutter because it has some Medium articles on that, but it's usually much easier to do than the article shows. So I will do a quick rundown how to do that. But first of all, I would like to point out that usually, if you can use platform channels, for example, for things like encryption and everything, you probably should. For things, especially like encryption, for example, standard symmetric AES. On iOS, there is a special chip on board for that, and it's much faster even to use like this platform channels and the native than doing that in CryptoPP in C++ or something. So usually, if there is there is a solution in the native part for that, I would recommend doing that just using platform channels. But in our case, we wanted to do some computer vision. Concretely, we wanted to do analyzing of images of wounds because we are working in healthcare. And the task itself was required a lot of computing power. So we couldn't use just Dart for that because we just had to use some lower level language. And we wanted to have a single code base. We all use Dart, and we wanted to have something like that just on the lower level. So, and that's when I realized that we can do it in C++. Our researcher already did all the POCs, all the testing and everything in C++. So it was like, okay, yeah, we can do it, and we will just create a Dart interface or whatever and just connect it, and it will work. Which, yeah, it seems really nice. So I will just now show you how can you set up the C++ in Flutter. I prepared it in advance, so it's basically only the basic counter app which you create when you create Flutter create app, and then I've created using this simple command here below, just plugin in the root of the application. So there is counter C++ plugin. I'm targeting platforms iOS and Android. This would work for the other platforms as well, but I don't have the experience with working with these other platforms with C++. Apart from that, I do, but with C++, we only tested Android and iOS. Yeah, and then in the root pubspec YAML, you will just reference this plugin you just created, add the FFI library in there, and in the plugin which you've created, in the iOS subfolder and in the classes, you create your C++ file. You have to create that in the iOS subfolder because or specifically Xcode can look only into the iOS folder, and Android can look anywhere else. So you specify it in iOS, and on Android you will just reference that in the iOS subfolder. So here I just created simple summary, simple sum function. There is even some main code, which I will talk about later. But yeah, here is just a simple sum function, which is annotated by some of these attributes like visibility, default, and everything that's for the compiler on Android and iOS. So it can found it basically. And on the Dart side, I basically just switch this counter ++ with the line below. So we will be using the C++ interface. The interface itself looks pretty, I would say it's easy. You just load the dynamic library here. You just look up the function in question, and then you need to allocate the values which you want to send to the C++ using these calloc allocate methods, because you can send pointers to only pointers to the C++, and then you have the result, and which you can return it and use it in the Flutter app. So yeah, the only thing which is required on iOS is to in the pubspec add this as library C++, and that's it. On the Android, it's a bit more complicated, but nothing special. You just created this CMake list, which is for C++ developers is normal thing to do, or it's nothing that special. You just add the library, and then you specify the library in the build gradually using these lines. I have compiled that into the simulator. I can run it later, like live, but here is pre-compiled, and the sum is working like as it should, and this is going through the C++, and the same is on the Android. So yeah, that was pretty much easy thing to do. As you said, it was like I prepared this demo for like 5 minutes. It was surprisingly super simple. But there is the second thing, and that's libraries. In our case, as I said, we wanted to do computer vision, and go-to computer vision library in C++ is OpenCV. That's basically the best library overall for computer vision. And there are a lot of other libraries which you might want to use depending on your use case. And it depends always on the library, how to include it. There are some libraries like OpenCV, which is precompiled for Android, iOS. There are some others like CryptoPP, which is for encryption, which you had to precompile it yourself, which was kind of a hassle. Usually the readmes are kind of obsolete, and especially if you are running on latest Mac OS or something, or on M1 ARM chip, it could be a pain to set up. But once you get it compiled, you can basically just include them in the CMake list file, as I showcased earlier, and in the pop spec, and that's pretty much it. On iOS, there is some Xcode magic under the hood, so the final binary is by default kind of small, which is nice. On Android, because you are working with the classic CMake list, you need to do all the optimizations yourself. So the final binary isn't like half a gigabyte or something, but that's just something to keep in mind. And I am now will just show some examples. I blurred the picture, so yeah, so it's family friendly. And basically, why we are using that, we are detecting the wounds themselves, we are measuring them, we are fixing the colors, and also I have a live demo here, which is basically we are calculating how much the phone is perpendicular towards the marker, towards the ruler, basically. And below the perpendicularity, 0.98, here is basically how it works. So yeah, the goal was that we wanted to teach the nurses in the hospital how to properly align the ruler. So this was quite a nice thing to do for them, and it was live. So they didn't even have to like record a video or took a picture or anything. It was just live. You just open the app and you just do this, and it works as I am shown. That's pretty much it from my side. It originally should be only 10 minutes presentation, so I'm open to any questions if you have any. And yeah, thank you for your patience.